But, so there we are. Hopefully you can all see that. Thumbs up for everybody. We're in. Just going to let a couple of extra people in, and then we'll rock and roll. As always, we have a set format. Yeah, we got start with it. We'll have a little quiz. As always, there'll be the occasional jest which we'll introduce, and then we're going to do something different. We're going to be doing a bit of live tweeting. Hey! So keep an eye out for that. So a very warm welcome. As always, we record today's session, so it's available for on YouTube later. For those of you who can't get enough, or to spot my errors and things like that, it's available. We'll send you a copy of the slides. As always, I mentioned to any of you who are based in the Humber region, there's the opportunity for some fully funded marketing support if you want help. And as you can see, we have there the Twitter handle and the hashtag for today. Well, not for today, for in perpetuity. So without further ado, let's start. I must confess before we start, people are asking me, you never tell me much about you. We don't know much about you. All we know is your name. So I said, well, I will share something with you, a little bit about my life, because I've been doing this now for a year on a Tuesday afternoon. I was once in a rock band. Yeah, we were called The Prevention. Yeah. We call that name because we're hoping people will tell us we're better than The Cure. So anyway, this morning, gosh, I went down. Oh, isn't the drive-through at McDonald's expensive? It's expensive, especially when you factor in the cost of car hire. Yeah. And I just got back about a really busy morning. I was I've been on a basic semaphore course. Yeah, after a couple of hours, I was flagging. So without further ado, we'll move on. And it's today's quiz. Don't forget, I'll be keeping a close eye on the chat line, because we've got to have answers. We've got to, so here we are. So, do you know what's about? Today's quiz is all about Twitter. So, question 1. Eyes down for a full house, no conferring. And so the challenge today, Jack Dorsey sent the first ever tweet on the 21st of March. When? When was that? Does anyone know? It was on the 21st of March, 2006. 2000, a couple of recent, Diane, close, no cigar. Ivan, 2010, could, but a bit like my teacher said, could do better. Yeah. Right, what's up next? Question 2. There it is. March the 25th. Jack just sent it up. Now you notice the name wasn't called Twitter in those days, and there's a reason why it wasn't called that. I can't remember what it was. So, right, let's move on. So next up, question 2. What was the event? So, we're going to sit here and stare at the chat line. Does anyone know what that was? Bit of a clue there, isn't there, really? Yes. So, type away to your heart's content. And we've got an answer. We have an answer. There we are. Sully. The Miracle on the Hudson. For those of you who remember, it was when Phil made with Tom Hanks landed the plane on the River Hudson. Now, how many of you are thinking, what's this got to do with this afternoon? Well, its significance. was on 15th of January 2009. Flight crashed on the Hudson River, as documented in the film. And what was unique about this occasion was that a photo posted to Twitter broke the news before the traditional media. And that was probably the touch paper, the genesis of where Twitter started to get more and more significant. And it's usually the place where many people will go to mention and update news. So here is a flexible question. Would anyone like to tell me the most popular tweet ever? And I'm going to give a shout. You got a complete blank canvas here. Yeah, you got it. Well done, Diane and Philip on the last question. The most shout out to the wittiest answer on this one, to the most popular tweet. I'm going to come up the river. Anyone? So we've got one guess for food. Hello. Philip says hello. Been the most Boris loses the election. Popular tweet. Helen DeGeneres. Great answer. Well done. Get not. Yeah, it's I'm sitting here with the answers. I can look all smug. Well, there's two. There's two answers to this question. The wittiest. Well, the actual truest. The most retweeted tweet was that. And it was done by an Asian billionaire who offered money to anybody who retweeted his tweet. There you go. There we are, slaves to the yen. But the most liked tweet was announcing the death of Chadwick Boseman. Sad. Black Panther, 21 Bridges, and the film just on Netflix at the moment. So yeah, a little shout out there. So they were the most popular. Let's move on. Right, on to the next question. Who are these three? Got it on. They're all Twitter related. So who are those three? If you're a certain age group, you'll be lapping this up. If you're an oldie like me, I didn't know who two of them were until Saturday morning. Actually, I shouldn't. Anyone takers for that? Well, there we go. Well, it is Barack Obama. Go down to that. Barack Obama. Katy Perry, isn't it? Justin Bieber. And who has the most Twitter followers? For those of you eagle-eyed, you've seen this already. Which one of those three has the most Twitter followers? Seen it already? Barry, he has. Yeah, Barack has. Did you know he had to? Yeah, when he was inaugurated as president, he had to go back and do it a second time because he didn't read it verbatim. What he was meant to do. He had to go and do it a second time. There you go. Little do not a lot of people know that. Right, and there we are. On the screen are the most popular Twitter accounts. So you have Barack first, Justin, Katie, Rihanna, Taylor Swift, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lady Gaga, and Donald there, who is no longer in that position because he's been given the elbow, metaphorically, as well as there we are. Most popular Twitter accounts. Right, next question. Question 7. Twitter first made a profit in Q4 of which year? Anyone know that? Good, 2017. Here we are. Can't see the chat line at the moment, so forgive me if I missed your answers. Yeah, well, that's true. Question 8 is definitely true. Come on then. Who knows the answer to this one? Who is that? Who is that? If you're an American sports fan, you'll know straight away who that person is. Does anybody know the answer to that? Well, if you don't worry, because here he is, Larry Bird. famous basketball player for the Boston Celtics and subsequent coach. So what has this got to do with Twitter? Larry Bird. Well, the idea was very much that he was the inspiration for using tweets as part of Twitter. Now, is that the Twitter logo? Yes or no? Well, the answer to that one is no, because if you look very carefully on the right, that was the second incarnation of the logo. And the more recent version, as you can see, has defeathered. So it's a slightly more simplistic version. So there are the feathers on the back and at the head are more pronounced, if I can put it in those terms. Or so there we go. So even the biggest brands have changed logos. So let's crack on with the main event, Twitter facts. So what is Twitter? Some of you might be on this route now. I'm going to work on the assumption today that we'll cover that you'll know a little bit about Twitter, but in its simplest terms, some of you may be novices, some of you far more advanced are going to have to pitch it at sort of early stages. It is used to share ideas, real-time information, and trending news. The idea is to connect the wider world as a whole and hear what's happening. Some people think of Twitter as like a real-time online newspaper. That's one way of thinking about it. Of all social media platforms, it is probably the fastest, most real-time. Well, does that sound about right? Yeah. Now, if I can ask you just to close your eyes for one moment. And imagine when we used to be in the pub. Gosh, remember those halcyon days? Oh, you can open them now. You can open them now. We'll be back there soon. And look on the left of the screen, who do you see? Yes, you see the Queen and you see a lady next to her in a green dress. And so doesn't she look a bit uncomfortable? Doesn't she there? What's all this about? Well, look at that Mad Dog in the Fog. What a great name for a pub. So, think of Twitter as a big virtual pub. How about that as an analogy, a metaphor? Big virtual pub. So you go into the pub and in the corner of one, there are a number of people talking about one subject and there are people talking about it on another. But in the big virtual pub, there are literally millions of people. Those conversations are delineated by the hashtag. And also the people talking about them are signified by the @ sign. Now, in my old days, nobody ever walked into the pub and stood at the front door and saying, "Hello, everybody, stop what you're doing, listen to me." We usually gently worked our way into a conversation, but some others took a more forward approach, if I could put it. So think of Twitter as a big virtual pub. Lots of people, lots of conversations talking about different things. And what you would like to do from a business point of view is to listen to the right conversations, engage in the right conversations, and engage with the right people or influencers. So there we are. So in our big virtual pub, Twitter has 330 million active users and 145 million daily users. There we are, you can all read. But you can see over 1 billion accounts have been created. But many people have made an account and left. But it's no different. But only that smaller number, 550 million people, have sent a tweet. It's not different. It's not unusual to many other platforms. Now, well, the difference is here. A lot of people use Twitter to listen. So a lot of people, as you can see, 500 million people visit without logging in. So a lot of people are there are listening in. So think of Twitter very much, you can argue, as more of a passive platform for many, but very active platform for others. But let's talk about some social media comparisons. Just leave that on the screen just to show my PowerPoint capabilities. Right, that won't go on forever. Didn't create it myself either. Right, so there we are. Oh, you see that? You see that? Take a moment. Where do you think Twitter stands in the league table of social media? You caught a glimpse. Are they Sheffield United or Manchester United or Leeds United? Somewhere in the middle. You tell me. Where do you think Twitter stands in the hierarchy? Get the old chat working, but never mind. Well, second. Gary says third. Fourth. Well, soon find out. Great guesses, but not quite. Or got one more guess coming in. Second. Where did Twitter stand in the hierarchy? Well, oh, it's working. There. Facebook was nearly over 2 billion users, and where does Twitter stand? Well, let me count those down. 3, 9, it's about 11th, 12th, isn't it? Somewhere around that. You can see Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, all owned by the same, well, the top 4 are all Facebook companies. WeChat, the Chinese, another Facebook, and look at the growth of TikTok, LinkedIn's there, Snapchat. Oh, and there is Twitter. It's a different beast to the others, but you can see you've got a potential audience of 500 million. So there we go. So this is for the benefit of those of you who are very, very sort of new to the world of Twitter. So how to use Twitter. These are things you need to know. Hashtag, there, the handle, and then you've got the RT, the retweet, which is sharing a post. And then if you're going to mention anybody, you'd use an @ sign. And we're going to have a little tweet later. So you'll see this if you're looking at it on a desktop. Very simple. You've got the home page, you create my first tweet, and then you'll press tweet, and off she goes. Here on your mobile device, you've got old Greta. There, she was tweeting about, you know, Donald had made something and she had retweeted, but you can see what you do there. Again, you're on the home page, and you press the little button on the right, and you can start typing away. As you can see there, my first tweet, and then press tweet. Okay, so that is the mechanism, but nobody will see it unless you usually have followers or people are searching for hashtags. So we need to get some followers. We'll come on to that. But the real question then, the very basic stuff, is why use Twitter? Yeah, that's an unreasonable question to ask on a Tuesday. Why use Twitter? Well, as mentioned, it's got 330 active, but 65% of B2B businesses use Twitter. You can see up to half on Twitter are following a particular brand. And you can see a good number, 40%, purchase something after the seeing it. So there is real reasons as to why brands use Twitter and why you maybe want to consider it yourselves. These are what I may describe as the simple advantages of Twitter. You can reach a wide audience, you can deliver customer service. Quick anecdote, quick Simon anecdote. Who can remember the ash cloud back in 2010? Yeah, me too. I can. I was stuck in Portugal. And then I had a 2-day, no flights, 2-day bus journey to get home. 2 days, 44 hours on a coach with no air conditioning. Oh. Anyway, during the ash cloud, many people wanted naturally to fly or know what was happening with the planes and couldn't get in contact with the airlines. And KLM were the genesis of this. And people were contacting KLM via Twitter. And so now, large part of their customer service is delivered that way, as do LNER and many transport. If you want to, in the good old days when people were flying, you could follow a flight. So delivering customer service is a great way of an advantage of Twitter. Naturally, you can build brand identity, you get real life feedback, and as always on social media platforms, largely you don't need to invest a penny to be successful. Right, its downside. Resources. It can be time hungry. You do get, as we unfortunately have seen, and you can see that in recent times, particularly in footballers and others, you've seen it is a vehicle for trolling, negative criticism. You have to be on it, time sensitive. You can get spam and false accounts, and there are limitations as to the number of characters, which has grown from 140 characters to 280. So there's some advantages and disadvantages. So, how many of you have asked that question? Should my business be on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram? Well, maybe all three. It's going to go this next part just to talk about some of the differences. Twitter, Facebook. Twitter is really meant for sharing ideas, whilst Facebook really was for connecting with friends and family. Facebook has a wider age group. Twitter's audience tends to be younger. But the difference always is you must tailor your content to either platform. They're not the sort of apples and pears. Okay? Next up, Twitter to Instagram. Twitter, again, is sharing ideas and catching up with news. Instagram really was sharing photos and videos, but they're competing for the same kind of primary audience age-wise. And you can see, busy slide, but the majority of the audience, in fact, do my math, 70% of the audience is under 29. Again, it's split across the platforms, but so you've got demographic largely for a younger audience. Facebook, though, is quite an interesting one. I'll leave this on the screen for 30 seconds or so. Facebook tends to dominate the social landscape. You can see the penetration is greater, and the average days that people are 15, and people often using it, 60% will get 8 sessions a day. It's obviously out of date because Google Plus has disappeared into the sunset. But you can see that 22% are on Twitter, and people aren't accessing it to the same level with a smaller number of sessions. But that doesn't mean it's not fair to compare Twitter and Facebook, the different beasts. So you just use it it's a different product used in a different way. But ultimately, marketing is about engaging with your target audience. And if your target audience is on Twitter or the place to be, there's no reason why you can't actively be on Twitter and also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever. Okay, so there we are. We're moving on to Twitter. So how to market yourself effectively on Twitter? Well, you create content, publish it, and distribute it to engage your followers. And the content really is there to attract new followers, gain leads, conversions, and brand. So all the time is about creating things that will be of interest. And here is probably a very recent example. Look at that. Who has been engaged more recently with Weetabix? Anyone familiar with what happened recently on Twitter that got the world talk, got engagement for a great period of time? If you don't, I'll share it for you. That's what happened. It's a screenshot I took at the weekend. So you can see it on the screen. Why should bread have all the fun when there's Weetabix serving up high at Heinz UK, beans on Bix for breakfast with a twist. Hashtag, it has to be Heinz. Hashtag, have you had your Weetabix? This was posted last week. A combination of marketing activity between two major brands, Heinz and Weetabix. Now, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Either way, it had, as you can see, 105,000 retweets, 131,000 people liking it, and then there was direct messaging. But look underneath what happened. Tinder, trust us, this is not a match. Even the York Minster got involved. Subsequently, the National Rail, due to a Weetabix adding beans to their cereal, all services will be delayed while we figure out what's happening. It got fantastic engagement. And you can see further on, Papa John's, who replied to Weetabix and Heinz, from the brand that brought you beans on pizza, it's garlic sauce. So they're engaging with the conversation. So if I go back to my virtual pub analogy, a conversation started, something that was really different, unique, and many other people engaged with it. Now you think, hang on a second, beans on Weetabix, bit of a fad, it got fantastic engagement. Do you know what the outcome was? More sales. You don't need me to tell you, last week was Valentine's Day. Yeah, I actually had my letterbox widened again just in case something happened. And needless to say, I got the same number of cards as I did last year. Yeah, less than one. Anyway, that's by the by. Cathartic moment there. Right, let's move on. This is Sainsbury's. Lauren Orchard, the cereal, but great name, cereals by Sainsbury's, said this. It must have been love. Weetabix and baked beans are the newest iconic love story. It's certainly been a whirlwind week for the pair, and in hindsight, these are my jokes, we should have seen it coming. At Sainsbury's, we've cleared the shelves and made space for the duo to be displayed side by side where they rightfully belong. The sales of Weetabix last week grew by 15%. That is why brands use Twitter. They were creative, cost them very little, apart from the photography, and look what happened. How about doing some live posting? How about that? It's come to that time of day. We're going to stop sharing, but we're going to post. Oh, right. I hope this works. I hope this works, he says optimistically. Let's do it. I'm going to go to my Twitter account. Has that come up on the screen? He says, hopefully. Has it come up? Yes? No? Yeah, it's come up. So, do you want to do a live example just to help? Now, obviously, time is short. So here I am on the screen, and let's just try and get some engagement. So I will say, here we go. Is this coming up on the screen? It's Tuesday again. There we are. And then I would press return. So it's got a headline and a start. It's great to be on a webinar. Now, what happens is, I'm creating the hashtag and it starts to produce the most popular hashtags. It's great to be on a wedding webinar on the, I wish I could spell, half of and at Humber. I'm doing this on behalf of our friends at the Humber Growther. Yeah. And C. Now, here's where I'm going to mention some people who might be on the webinar. Now, right out to my friend Kevin, I think. Happy Chinese New Year to Kevin, who lasers with business there. And I think also today we have our voice expert, voice coach, voice over expert, Liz. Now is Liz there? I think she is. Am I getting this right? Hope I get this right. Liz Drury. So Tuesday again, it's great to be on a webinar on behalf of the Humber Growth. Tag them in and also mentioned Kevin. And I'm going to see, then I put a little, and what we'll do, we'll return to this tweet to see the success. So I'll put a little emoji in there, right, to smile. And we also, there we go. And I'm going to say a thank you to all those attending. Hashtag grow my SME, which is the hashtag for the Humber Growth. Now, the tweets tend to work best if we put an image there, but today we're not. We're going to go down here. I'm going to try a GIF. How about a little GIF? Now, I've got to say thank you. So we look down all our little list. Is there a thank you one? Oh, let's hope there is. A bit of fun. Oh, thank you. There we are. So press that. Ooh, a choice here of an auto GIF. Oh, can't beat Leonardo. We're going to have Leonardo in there. Let's double click on that. So there you are. It's Tuesday again. Great to be on the webinar. So it's use the hashtag and tag one business who I'm working on behalf of and 2 attendees. And we're going to press tweet. And off it goes. So that is very much a thank you. And we're going to return to this tweet a little later because we'll just show you, thank you, Leo, as to what's happened. So if you are out there and you'd like to engage, please feel free to do so. We're going to come back to that in 10 minutes. There we are. We'll stop sharing at this point. There we are. Thank you, Leonardo. Yeah. Right. We're back. So we've done a little live tweet. And we're back. And we'll return to that. Is it going to work? I had this problem last week. So we've done a live post. Just as a thank you to you. Right. What can you do in terms of a Twitter strategy? Well, it's a fantastic place in which you can research your competition, see what is going on, and do that fairly with a certain degree of anonymity. I would encourage you also to audit your account so it looks in keeping with your brand and that you are presenting a wholly unified brand. It's surprising how many businesses I encounter where the website looks different to their Facebook page, their business cards, their Twitter account. You can also see what works really well in terms of best practice. So if you see other businesses working Twitter in a certain way, well, let them be the Pied Piper. And clearly, you've got the opportunity to see an audience out there. So let's go through some tips on really how to use Twitter for the business. Number one, to build a profile that stands out. Here is an example when you think, we'll come back to looking at actually live at Twitter. There we are. You're thinking about getting the brand present, and then you've got the image as well. So it's very much the opportunity to create what the right bio. Now, the thing to remember, if you look at people like Innocent Drinks and others, they will change their bio regularly. And I've often referenced a golf club who's got 4 images, all of the 18th hole with a clubhouse in the background, 4 images taken from the same place, but each one is reflecting of a season. So 4 seasons. There's also Vivaldi as well. So here what you do in terms of creating the background. So you've got the custom, here's a good example of UPS. Yeah. Custom background, they've got the avatar, they've got, as you can see there, they've got the descriptive bio. Stay connected to global trade, sustainability, and logistics. And then the URL to click through to the website. They're using short tracking URLs, which I'm going to show you in a moment, and audio-visual content, which I mean is far more engaging rather than just words. So I'd encourage each and everyone to audit your own account, look at your background, consider changing it, make sure avatar is right, the description is right, the URL is right, and you can shorten a lot of tweets down. As you can see there, they've got the bit.ly link. So bit.ly is a great place to go to shorten your links. So you copy the long link into bit.ly to shorten links. So when you've got 280 characters, you take the big URL, copy it into bit.ly, and you end up with a much shorter link, as you saw, oops, there. It obviously creates a little bit of intrigue as well, because people don't know where they're clicking, but you can make yourself look much better that way. And the beauty about using bit.ly is you can see the numbers of people who've clicked the link. It's also a tracking device. So a great profile to start with, that's common with your brand. Then you're thinking about the content you're offering. And here is the crux of it. If your content doesn't inspire conversation, it's not worth publishing. Let's go back to the big virtual pub in the sky. Who wants to be the pub bore? Saying the same thing over and over again. You'd love to hear laughter, you want to hear engagement. So just before you post, think about if it doesn't inspire conversation, it's not worth publishing. The tweet I just did, you can argue, isn't the most inspirational tweet, but for the sake of expediency and time, it was conversational and it was a thank you. I'm going to show you now, to really think hard. You advance any idea, entertain, educate. So here is about 8 things that you can tweet about. So you can talk about industry news and reference that, and you're linking to activity. You can make announcements. You've seen that regularly with many sporting things, but also from a business point of view, you can announce on Twitter. There's a great one to do. We hear about promotional codes, flash sales, and you can see that Wendy's are giving an offer there. Honey butter chicken biscuit. Can't beat it, eh? Yum, yum. And referencing your blog. You want traffic to your website. Well, set up links from Twitter and talk about your blogs and your content, often with a how-to. There's also, ironically, I put this up because it was done a little while back. January 2020 can't come soon enough. Well, little did we know. But it was Coffee Mate, you know, because coffee tastes nicer with Coffee Mate. A lot of teas. So you can take an image and talk about leading towards a product launch, an event. It's a narrative. Naturally, use it for events. Join us on this particular day. And then the special days, like today, there's so much on Twitter about pancakes and the likes, and we talked last week with Weetabix and baked beans. But you can take advantage of many of these special days, you saw, by shoehorning those into your social media. And a great place to go if you're recruiting or looking for a job. So many businesses use it from that perspective. And then the old motivational quotes. And this can fit in well by using the likes of Canva. So you can again just use motivational quotes relative to what your market demands, which we'll show in a moment. Then you can just simply talk about the product. But there, what's intriguing about that is about skin and moisturizer is not so much the product, it's the photograph. It's really superb there. So it's very engaging and a great image. So it's a great way in which to showcase things. And then here, a divide, a tip for remote working. Simple 4 or 5 points. There is so much you can do, but I always think of the back to the pub. Share, not sell. Engage. See what works and what doesn't. And then use it testimonials. So much to do there. You can share things on Google My Business and all of the platforms, share onto Twitter and announce to your audience. And more recently, Twitter's moved on to polls. Here, which side is your side of the bed? Again, fun thing, but if you're in that industry, in beds, mattresses, whatever, you're asking questions. It's fun, it's engaging. So much you can do in terms of polls. I'm working with a restaurant. What's your favorite dish? What would you like to see on the menu? Great ways in which to get client engagement. Look at the likes of Martin Lewis. Shout out to him. So much he does on polls, giving out information on Twitter. So, key thing then is to optimize your content. Well, how do we do that? Well, we use the most effective hashtags. So, how do I find the most effective hashtag, Simon? Well, how about using any one of these 4? Leave it on the screen. Hashtags.org, Twubs, TrendsMap, and Twitter itself to see the hashtags and what's trending. And you can also get good analytics on those. So any one of those 4, but don't, Instagram, you're putting up to 30 hashtags into a post. Please don't use too many. Many sages would suggest to use only up to, say, 3 hashtags. So, great way to do it is to monitor what's happening out there. Now, you want to automate your monitoring, no less. Well, I'll leave that on the screen for a moment. There are 5 tools on the screen there. Again, many of them are free, in which you can monitor your brand on Twitter. You register, you decide on the type of term. The one I personally use, can't advocate it highly enough, but there are others out there, is the like of Hootsuite. You can see here, there's a screenshot of Hootsuite. You can be at your desk. You can see on the right-hand side, anytime your brand is mentioned and the terms that are there. So for example, if you were a holiday business in Scarborough, you could look for any mention of Scarborough or hotels and instantly respond. And mentions of you as a business, or actually mentions of maybe your competition or influencers, all on one screen. It's free for up to 3 platforms to use. So Hootsuite's a good one, but also return to, as many prefer TweetDeck, but great places to go in which to monitor your brand and engage. Hotels, in the good old days when we could actually go and stay anywhere, used to use tools like this, because often people would post on Twitter about that. Now, one of the best ways I've heard Twitter being used was in America. There's a very famous author, whose name I've forgotten, who shall remain nameless, who tweeted, who was flying from Chicago to Newark in New Jersey. And he got on the plane, was about to get on the plane, and said, I can't wait to get to New York. I'm dying to eat a hashtag steak. Let's say it was a best rump steak. So he gets on his plane in Chicago, and he flies off 2 hours or so to Newark, New Jersey. What happened? That question of sport. What happened next? Well, he arrived at Newark Airport, and what was getting through there and what was waiting for him? A sign up with a hashtag. And there's a man in a tuxedo, can't do the American accent, in a tuxedo with a platter and a steak. So one of the steakhouses, Morton's Steakhouse, were listening on social media. They saw the opportunity, and what marketing gold dust and PR to be waiting there. And he had his picture taken, and he could say, I'm retelling the story because it is there. So it's the idea that you're listening in and taking the opportunities. They were brazen, but why can't you do the same thing yourself on lesser scale? And it's about listening. So, great thing to do with Twitter is the analytics. And when we come on to, I'll show you that in a key, and then you can schedule your posts. So I did that in real time, that last post. But you can also schedule posts either using some of the devices which you mentioned or using Twitter itself. But you can pay good money as well to Twitter. So you can do promoted tweets. You'll pay for a tweet to display to a user that's not following you. And it looked like a normal tweet. So it'll appear in the same way. They can do everything, they can share it, but it might be worthwhile cracking open the piggy bank and using promoted tweets, because Twitter will find it to an audience above and beyond the number of followers you have. Or run ads. Again, very low cost, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all places to go. You may wish to think about actually running campaigns. So how do you master Twitter? Well, here's some examples of some of the big brands in using Twitter. Starbucks, but look what they say in their bio. Inspiring and in nurturing the human spirit, one person, one cup, one neighborhood at a time, needs support. Didn't see the word coffee mentioned there. So it's all about their social impact, recycling, sustainability. Amazon are much more brazen. They're more about Prime days, offers. Probably don't have to do the soft stuff, they just go for it. McDonald's is slightly different. They are more about stories, fun, humor, things like that. So take a slightly different approach. You've got three options: to be brazen, to follow the sustainability route, and then other examples. So you know, it's about you tailoring to your audience, but you can see the success that some of the brands have had. Well, thank you for attending, but we're not finished just yet. We're not. We're going to stop sharing, and we're going to go back. Where are we going back to? Oh, let me think. Where are we going back to? I know where we're going back. We're going to go back to the tweet and spend our next few minutes taking you through some of the features on Twitter. And we can see what happened. There's Leonardo. Now, where's the first place that I'm going to go? Where I'm tempted to go? Well, let's just look at the screen first and foremost. You can see what's, oh, it's gone. Ah! Let's go back to the home page. On the screen on the right-hand side is what's happening there. Now, it often relates to see that some of the things that are actually trending out there, and you can see the stuff, and it suggests people to follow. Okay. So here we're going to click over to notifications, and you can, it's where it's really important that you can see the level of engagement. Thank you to everybody who's participated. There's lots of negotiation. I'm going to click on the tweet, and there it is. So it's fantastic that people like Craig, we just give a shout out to us. Craig, there we are. Foil Safety Management, Kevin, his activity in Far East and China, and then Polaris, Elaine there, 3D prints. So all good shout out to everybody there. But do you know where I'm going to go first? So here you can actually, you can see, you can reply to the tweet. Many can retweet it. We can like it. We can see what's got, we can share it. But do you know where I go first? Go first. I always go here first. Go into the, go into the analytics first, he says, and you can see what's happened. So I've got, in a very short space of time, 43 impressions. That's more than Mike Yarwood. All right, you have to be a certain age for that one. You can see the media views. So the clock is ticking, and you can see the total level of engagement. And you can, if you click here, to view all the engagement. So the likes, the replies, the retweets. Now, the key thing is back to the issue rating to what you've seen here. And back to the virtual pub, is that we really want to start to engage. So time doesn't really permit at this moment in time. We engage with people who've retweeted that. So if I click on my picky, let's hope this works. And you can see all the people that, the amount of people, the retweets and so forth there. Now, so what I'll do then, I'll click on more. Okay. And back, see, to the analytics. And this is over, say, the last, this is what's happened. The key thing here to look over at Twitter. And I'll click on tweets. The top, can you see that? Tweets. And just go to a shorter time frame. So the last 7 days of tweets. And you get an idea of what's happening, the number of impressions and the activity that's taken place. But you also get to see which ones are working and which not. So we've got a high, as you can see, 43 impressions and 23 engagements. So you've got 53% engagement rate. So you'd say that tweet is doing well. I posted this morning and got a much smaller engagement rate. And last week I was just posting a picture, and here I took a picture when I was out walking. It hit 2,000 people, which is great, but I got 2% engagement rate. So it's really looking at your analytics to see what works. And then you look here, you can see this top tweets. And it's going to highlight the tweets that are successful. And then here, tweets and replies. So all the time you want to be working there on looking at the tweets that are successful and they're not. But the key thing is to follow the same principle, that people are engaging with the tweet and for you to engage back, which I'll gladly do over after 3 o'clock. So it'd be great. Thank you very much for everyone's taking part there. But I'd encourage you to flip it round. God, I'm glad I said that right. Is that think about the people you want to do business with, the people engage. So you'll search for them here in the Twitter up here and follow them, engage with them. Use the hashtags as well to engage with your audience. So think of it very much as that online, that big pub where you can engage and talk to people. And don't be frightened of tagging others in. See, I didn't ask for the Humber growth, but because we're following each other, we tag them in. And big thanks to Kevin and Liz, who have been victims today. A big subject, and hopefully we'll obviously spend quite a lot more time going through the mechanics and take you through the exploring, the use of fleet, and using media and all different aspects of Twitter, which hopefully, but my time is up. I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to thank everybody for listening. Hope you got a little insight. I'm going to have a look if there's any questions there in the chat line. If there are, I'll gladly try and answer them right now. But Gary, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, I hope you all. Pleasure. Thank you, Ivan, Philip, Tracy. You're very welcome. I get most pleasure if I've helped you along and you've seen just a different way of using Twitter. But like most things, 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes in the morning probably, and 10 minutes in the afternoon. You can devote that time to engage with people, clients, potential clients, wherever it may be. You may find opportunities. So, but as I said, if you want more time one-to-one on Twitter, that's available, free of charge, no less, for the Humber Growth Hub. So happy to spend some time tweeting with you. But if not, any more questions? What have we got planned for next week? Well, we're going to be talking, the next few things, we're talking about business-to-business marketing. And then after that, we're going to be talking all about online advertising. And then after that, we're going to be doing video marketing. I'll be joined by my friend Ryan, who's going to take you all the way through video marketing. So we're here without fail every Tuesday. That's great. Well, so I will thank you very much to Tracy. I'll be in contact with you if you need a little help. And Miss Grimes as well. So without further ado, I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to thank you all, and I'm going to hang around for a moment if anyone wants to ask any questions. But if not, I'll enjoy your pancakes and I'll see you hopefully next time.